You ever got a fruit from a tree and you wondered, man, how awesome would it be to have a replica or a little clone of that tree so I can just keep eating that same fruit, but I wouldn't have to deal with the big giant tree? Well, that is a process called air layering. Hey, welcome back to Simply Farms. All right, so I got another treat for you guys because this is something that I hold near and dear to my heart that I love to do. And I want to kind of bring you guys into this fold, right? So think about it like this. You ever got a fruit from a tree and you wondered, man, how awesome would it be to have a replica or a little clone of that tree so I can just keep eating that same fruit, but I wouldn't have to deal with the big giant tree? Or you've seen like a flower that you see, like a flower bush, and you're like, wow, I would love to have a small version of that. I just don't have the space, but I would like to have a clone of that. Well, that is a process called air layer. So I've done a lot of air layers already, some that I've given away, some that I have planted in my own yard, but this is something that I do on a regular basis. I do a lot of air layers on my mango tree. I am, however, going to start doing some on the avocado tree back there as well. Now, I'm going to take you guys through the process of doing an air layer. And before I start doing that, let me tell you why an air layer is so awesome, right? So what an air layer does is it tricks a branch into thinking that it's its own tree by actually having that branch push out roots to where when you detach that branch from that tree, it continues to grow as if it's still on its main tree and produces fruit for you continuously year after year. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how this process happens. First, we're going to start going through all of the things that you're going to need in order for you to actually do an air layer. Okay, so there's a few things that you are going to need. All right. So some people actually order these off of Amazon or wherever else, where you get your plants and, things for your plants. You can actually have these. These are just pods, air layer pods, right? And what you do is you fill them with the material that you're going to use. You encapsulate the branch, and the branch is going straight through there. And the branch then grows all its root inside of this capsule. Then you cut the branch off, and now you have an actual small mature tree that will have its root ball inside of this capsule. Now, since not everybody gets to get these things, which are the capsules, I'm going to do it in a fashion where if you have a Ziploc, you can get this done, okay? So follow me. First things first, we're going to need our Ziploc. We're also going to need a mixture that's going to allow the roots to form inside of the root ball. So that way you can actually cut it off the tree. So what I have here is a mixture of cocoa core, which is, I guess you would call it coconut husk, and a little bit of potting mix, which then forms this beautiful mixture here. So you have potting mix and cocoa core that I'm going to put some moisture to. Now, you don't want to get this sopping wet, but you do want it to make sure that there's enough moisture in here that for the next 3 months, that little branch is going to be feeding off of for the next 3 months. Now, there should be plenty of here. See that? So you start with this, and then you go ahead and you add some water to it. So go ahead and get some water in here. All right, so cocoa core mixture and potting mix in here with some moisture. As you can see, it's not crazy sopping wet, but it does have some moisture, so you can see it across the bag there. So we have this part of it ready to go. And I always let all the air out just to make sure that, so I let all the air out to where now I'm left with this perfect little cake, right? Nice little cake right here. And that's what I'm going to be using to grow my root ball in. The next thing you're going to need is some twine. Now, the reason why you need this twine is so that way you can get some compression on there. So that way it holds onto the branch. This, you get it for free at Home Depot. Not a big deal. You are going to actually need, well, you don't need it, but it's good to have. This is just some extra large grafting tape. Get this at Amazon for, next to little to nothing. This is what I use. This is a rooting hormone. If you cannot get this, you can also use other things like honey. You can also use cinnamon. You can use aloe as well. Those are actual rooting agents themselves. But I like to use this. It's quick and easy. I put some on the branch and I'm ready to go. Um, you're also going to need a nice sharp knife. I use this one, which has a very sharp edge on there, and I'm going to show you why. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is you want to select your branch. I always select a branch that have multiple branches at the tip because I want it to kind of look like a Y, if you don't, like almost like a perfect little tree, So here is the branch I've selected. As you can see, it almost looks like a perfect little tree when you look at it, right? So I'm going to be putting the bag right here, and it's going to be this little tree that's going to be taken off. And if you look at the tip of this thing, you notice this branch already has flowers on it. So this branch is a mature branch that I'm going to manipulate into thinking that it's going to be its own separate little tree that's going to produce year after year. All right, so now that I've selected the branch that I'm going to be using, I'm going to go ahead and do about an inch score around the actual branch itself. I go all the way around because I want to remove this the entire bark off of about an inch or so. So go up about an inch. I make my next score all the way around. Now, some trees or some branches that you're going to do are not going to be as easy to remove as a mango. Mango is pretty easy to get off. So I go right down the center between the 2 points that I just made those scores in. And I go ahead and remove the top layer to begin with. So now what we're looking at is the cambium layer, which is the layer that actually brings the nutrition up this actual branch. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to sever the connection between this end of the branch and this end of the branch, so that way this end only feeds from what's going to be in the bag around here, and it's going to be cut off from the main tree back here. So now that we have the cambium layer exposed, we're going to get rid of the cambium layer, which is kind of like the membrane that forms that connection to bring food back and forth. So I want to make sure I disrupt that connection completely. So I want to go around here all the way till I get to, I guess you would call the white meat. Want to get all the way down. You don't want to get all the way down to the point where this thing cannot support itself, but you do want to get rid of all this cambium layer, right? So what's going to happen now is I'm going to go ahead and put some rooting hormone around this corner and a little bit down here as well, but mainly around here because this is where the roots are going to form and are going to come out this way, right, into this ball that's going to be here. So I'm going to take a little bit of this rooting hormone, put it on in this cap. Not very much, just a little tiny bit. Try to use it very sparingly. It will last you for a while. So we're talking about just this amount, not very much. I'm just going to go ahead and put that rooting hormone all around there. Now, this is going to require a little bit of a tricky position, but you can do this. Not a big deal. Come on. So you need yourself a piece of twine, and you also need your bag. So what I do is I cut right in the middle of my bag, right here, right? And then what I do is I go ahead and stick it right in here. to where it's pretty much wrapped around that wound that I created earlier. All right. And now that you have it nicely tight around there, take your twine and push it through. Hold it down with your thumb and start going around a few times. So that way you can secure it onto that branch. Now this will take a little patience. So you still have this piece out here, and all you're doing is you're just wrapping it around. I would do another knot there. All right. Got a good amount of liquid in there. And then I cut all these ends off, because we know what we're trying to do here. We're making a little clone. Now, we're going to use the extra large grafting tape to go ahead and seal this off, so that way we don't have any ants or anything that's going to crawl in there and try to eat at the roots that are forming. I want to protect them as much as possible. So I start wrapping from the top, and I work my way down and up and around. I think. All right, so this should be all right here. And then what I do is I take another piece, I thin it out, and I go around where my last piece was to keep it from unraveling. And that's it. This will be a mini tree that will produce mangoes one day. And I'm going to give you guys a shot of some of the ones I've already done that have already produced mangoes. Some that are still on this tree that I have not taken off as of yet. For example, this one here. This one I made with the ball. What I just did was I literally created what will soon be a mini tree, right? So this thing will be a small little tree in the future that I will be able to put in the ground if I want to, or leave in a pot, and it will definitely get me mangoes every year if I allow it to. The first year I will not, but who knows. But the good thing about doing this is I can get mangoes every year, and I don't have to wait 7 years. And I can get the exact mango that this tree produces, because this branch is a mature branch. So if you ever want to clone somebody's tree, if they allow you to, this is an easy process of you doing it. Now, it will take about 3 months before we can actually see what's in there. But in 3 months, I will have a mini version or a clone version of this main tree that's right here behind me. All right. So if you guys learned anything, follow, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Let me know, have you done any air layers, and what was the success rate, and what are some other air layers you would like to see, for example, and I'll go ahead and bring those to you. All right. Till next time. See you later.